In the horror film Beezel, 2024, the story begins on May 22, 1966, with a young boy named Avery who is haunted by a disturbing encounter with his mother. While playing in his room, he hears her call out and finds her in the bathroom, hiding in a cupboard beneath the sink. She tells him she's hungry and asks him to bring her a snack. Avery returns with an apple, but after eating it, she requests more food for a friend. Avery's father interrupts, cautioning him to stay safe, but in a horrifying twist, his mother grabs Avery and starts devouring him. The scene abruptly cuts. The narrative then jumps forward to January 3, 1987, where we meet Apollo, a documentarian hired by Harold Weems to clear his name. Harold has been ostracized by his community, suspected of murdering his wife and son who died under strange, grisly circumstances years prior. Apollo is tasked with documenting Harold's side of the story, as Harold hopes to prove his innocence. As Apollo sets up his camera, Harold recounts the tragic night he discovered his wife's body. Her corpse bore gruesome bite marks that didn't match human teeth. Police lacked evidence to arrest him, but he's been unable to escape the rumors. In the middle of their interview, Apollo senses something sinister as Harold leads him into the basement. There, Harold shows him photos of wildlife he's taken and cryptically mentions visitors who have helped him adjust to living with others. The children in the neighborhood believe his house is haunted by a witch, a suspicion Harold brushes off with an eerie laugh. Harold offers Apollo extra money to continue the shoot overnight. Reviewing his footage, Apollo notices a figure lurking behind Harold in the basement, but before he can react, Harold calls him over, showing him a disturbing film reel. It's a video of Harold's wife's death, where she lies lifeless with Harold smiling over her body. Harold chillingly tells Apollo that the townsfolk are right, there is something that lurks beneath the house, a witch named Beezel who craves human flesh. Apollo begins feeling faint as Harold reveals he drugged the water Apollo drank, paralyzing him. Beezel has lived under the house for centuries, fed by sacrifices made to her by those in the home, including Harold's wife. Harold divulges that he isn't alone in his horrifying work, his second wife helps him feed Beezel. As Harold's eyes darken, indicating he's under Beezel's control, Apollo tries to fight back, stabbing him with a screwdriver. Before Apollo can escape, Beezel emerges from the shadows, tearing his head off and leaving Harold and his wife to face their fate alone. The story then skips to November 20, 2003, where Naomi, a nurse, arrives at the Weems house to care for Harold's deteriorating wife, Mrs. Weems. Naomi discovers unsettling hints about the house's history, including an old recorder from the previous caretaker, Charlie. As Naomi listens to Charlie's recordings, she learns that previous caretakers, like Linda and Charlie, fell victim to Mrs. Weems and her devotion to Beezel. The recordings reveal that Beezel, or someone in the house, compels Mrs. Weems to continue offering caretakers as sacrifices. One night, Naomi hears Mrs. Weems speaking in her sleep about needing one more sacrifice and encounters terrifying visions of Mrs. Weems with ghostly white eyes. While investigating the basement, she finds disturbing evidence of previous caretakers and tries to escape. But before she can get far, Beezel, in a monstrous form, catches and kills her. A decade later, in 2013, a young couple, Lucas and Nova, arrive at the house with plans to sell it, but Nova feels an attachment, wanting to make it their home and start a family. Although Lucas is hesitant, he reluctantly agrees. Soon, Nova experiences strange occurrences, such as hearing sounds under the bed. One night, she has a nightmare of seeing herself with white, possessed eyes. Days later, she finds a hidden child in a small door in the basement, mistaking him for her own. When Lucas confronts her, he's horrified to see her cradling a dead cat, believing it to be the child she's longed for. Unbeknownst to both of them, Beezel's influence is corrupting Nova, turning her into her next vessel. Lucas uncovers an old camera from Harold's belongings and discovers harrowing footage of Jane's death and Beezel's terrifying appearance. Realizing the danger, Lucas decides to leave with Nova, but she resists. A call comes in from a potential buyer, lifting his spirits. That night, while planning their escape, Lucas dreams that Nova attacks him. Upon waking, he sees Nova standing over him, and she stabs him to death in a possessed trance. Now, Nova is pregnant, an unsettling fulfillment of Beezel's cycle. Every 300 years, Beezel needs a human vessel to conceive her next form, and now Nova is carrying that cursed child. Months later, Nova gives birth to Beezel's child. In the final scenes, she feeds the baby to Beezel, sustaining the witch's twisted immortality. The movie closes with a new family moving into the cursed home, unaware of the dark forces that lie in wait. The cycle continues as Beezel claims her next set of victims, leaving viewers haunted by the sense that this evil will never be vanquished. If you enjoy watching this video, then subscribe to Angel Recaps for the latest movies explanation.